Hello and welcome to Kabbalah of Adam. We got a great news broadcast for you today. Now we're going to do How to Think, part 3. We're going to get back. We're going to finish this today. And I'm going to give you a little history lesson. Not a big history lesson, but one needed. Because what is going on in the world? Are we Gog and Magog, or where are we at? What's happening? And we're going to learn everything you ever wanted to know about Hamas today in the Torah. You ready? Let's do it. Ruler of the universe and master of all masters, Father of mercy and forgiveness, we thank you, our God and the God of our fathers, by bowing down and kneeling, that you brought us closer to your Torah and your holy work, and that you enable us to take part in the secrets of your holy Torah. How worthy are we that you grant us with such a big favor. That is the reason we plead before you, that you will forgive and acquit all of our sins, and that they should not bring separation between you and us. May it be your will before you, our God and the God of our Father, that you awaken our hearts to love and revere you, and may you listen to our utterances and open our closed heart to the hidden studies of your Torah. And may our study be pleasant before your place of honor, as aroma of sweet incense. And may you emanate to us light from the source of our soul to all of our being. And may the sparks of your holy servants, to which you revealed your wisdom to the world, shine. May their merit and the merit of their fathers and the merit of their Torah and holiness support us, so we shall not stumble through our study, and by their merit enlighten our eyes in our learning, and say, by King David, the sweet singer of Israel, open my eyes so that I see wonders from your Torah. Because from his mouth God gives wisdom and understanding. May the utterance of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, God, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. Amen. Okay, we're not going to go back into the 1st century, 2nd century, 3rd century. We're going to try to stay in our recent history here in the 1900s into the 2000 era. So we know in our Adamic timeline we're in the feet of time. We're closer to 6,000 than we are 2,000, 3,000. That sort of a deal. So we know we're getting closer on the 6th day of the garden, and we know, as we've talked about, there's fail-safes for the Klippa not to get in. The Hitzonim, the outside forces that are going to get in. Now, there are and always has been a ruling class of people. Elite families, kings, queens, going back all the way to time of Solomon, even before King Saul. Why did the people want a king? Because the nations had a king. So there's always been this ruling elite class, and they've never been in Torah. So you hear, and I don't call them conspiracy theorists, I call them conspiracy truthers, but if you look back, and we're going to look at Israel in and of itself today, okay? So back when President Jackson was that was the second time we had a private Western Central Bank in America. He got rid of it. We now have the third installation, and all it is you have 3 arms, 3 heads of this snake. You have the Vatican, because we're dealing with Esau. You have the Vatican, which is not a part of Italy or Rome. And you have London, which is not a part of England. And you have Washington, D.C., which is not a part of the United States. That is the military arm, which is us. That is the financial arm, which is London. And it is the banking arm and system, which is the Vatican. Now, remember, these came and they destroyed the temple, the second temple, Rome did, and they had a Roman conquest, and they everything from Spain to Europe, all the way around in Israel, Turkey, Syria, all the way around in Egypt, and all the way to Morocco, that entire Mediterranean Sea, Alexandria was all Roman controlled. All right? Do you think it's not still Roman controlled? Of course it is. Every one of these players is run and owned by the Crown of England. The Ayatollah, the current Ayatollah, is educated in London. Same thing with the president or whatever, the premier of Jordan. All of these people are installed. They're not voted on, they're installed. And so are the governments, and so are the banking systems. And let me give you a little history lesson here with Israel. After we got onto the Fed, the Private Western Central Bank note in 1913, and then we had the Titanic, which killed all the people that were opposing it. They started the Federal Reserve Act, basically, that we're under today, and that is collapsing. That's what you're seeing. This is part of Kol HaTorah. This is part of the things that must happen before Mashiach ben David gets here. All right? Now, in 1917, there's this thing called the Balfour Act. A Balfour Declaration. I'm going to call this piece the Balfour Resolution or Reversal. Now listen. That was written in 1917. And then we have World War I, we have World War II, we have the Holocaust. All right? So what do they try to, what is the magician's hand trick, sleight of hand, poof of smoke, don't look over here, look over here. They wrote Israel in 1917 an act that said that they sold the land of Israel, it was the land of Palestine, to Israel, to the Jews. That's what they said happened. All right? Now, because the Crown in London owned the land of Canaan, the land that they named Palestine. Why was there no Jews there? Because at Second Temple, they killed them all and ran them all out. So the Gaon of Vilna in Lithuania sent his brother and 70 people down to resettle in late 1700s the land of Israel. They started yeshivas. They started all the things that we know about modern Judaism today. And come along about 1900, they were going to then give this to Israel. Why? Control. Because they never really got it. Listen to this. In 1948 was a monumental day for Israel. And the current state of Israel will no longer exist after this war that they're going through today. Change is coming on the other side. Because Israel is not a land. It is a corporate infrastructure and government. And Israel is run by the UK and the central banking. This was done where they had to accept the current residents of Palestine, that they so-called live there, and for the sheer purpose to use them whenever they wanted. So the 48 war was to establish boundaries for Israel. You had Egypt and Jordan and Hezbollah and all these people, where all this land had always been owned by the Crown. And they made certain provisions with all of these other countries to use their financial system. So what was the 48 war really about? Setting up the government of Israel. And what did the government of Israel have to do? They had to give the Temple Mount over to Jordan. Control. It was never about giving it to the Jews. Ever. It was about controlling them. Now, the central bank and all of its gangster globalists, they are in charge of financing the terrorism and destruction in the Middle East and modern day for control of oil, vis-a-vis the manipulation of the oil markets as it relates to the petrodollar that happened in 1970. What happened right after 1970? The Yom Kippur Wars. What was that about? They already established the government in 48. Now they established the financial and banking system in Israel. all run by the Rothschilds. This is well known. But the Balfour Declaration was more of a lease, comes to find out, than it was a sale. And as long as Israel, the Jews, do not own their own land, because it's owned and controlled by outside forces, the Hitzonim, the Klipa, God will be limited to what he will do. Because they are sucking the shepherd. But what does he do? He allows the Klipa to build the land. The Klipa precedes the fruit. The end is looped in the beginning. So this is the period of Mashiach ben Yosef, the struggle. So this started with the control in 1948. The illusion of Israel winning the war was more of a boundary control, with the acceptance of the Arabs within its boundaries that can be activated at will. This illusion of an Israel-Arab conflict is only the manipulation of world currency as it relates to the oil-rich regions. Every time they need the stock market to go up or down, there's tension in the Middle East. There's tension in the Middle East. Oh no. Why? Because that's how they control the financial market. If you do not play ball in this market, you will be taken down by the financiers' war arm called the United States of America. Ask Saddam Hussein and ask Omar Gaddafi. Neither played within this system. If you do not play further in this system, you will be labeled the axis of evil. China, Russia, Syria, they don't play. Now, what you are witnessing today, this is what it looks like in 3D, is war in the Middle East. Now, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and the central bank labels you as a terrorist, the axis of evil. What you are currently witnessing is the removal of this system, the deep state in Israel. You have to understand the Israeli government is all corrupt, every bit of it, from the bottom to the top. And it's under the guise of the Hamas war. This is the last-ditch effort to maintain control. Now, remember, in 2008, when Obama was in, what happened? We saw all of these refugees going into Europe. Millions of them into Germany, millions of them into France, millions of them into Spain, millions of them into England. Right? What have we seen in the borders of the United States? The same thing. Then this guy Trump comes in and goes, whoa, stop the border. And he reversed everything. You have to understand, the Davos group is in on it. It's the same people. The Bilderberg group is in on it. The G7, the G20, the World Health Organization, and the EU and the UN. It's all the same people. The same installed people. You ever wonder why they call Israel a state, not a nation? Because every one of those people knows this contract. They know Israel does not stand on its own. They got them a little lease agreement going over there. They're renters in the grand scheme of things. But I'm telling you, not the Torah version. Okay, the Torah version is completely different. God's using this whole thing to build it. What do we know in Daniel? The legs of iron, 2,000 years of this Roman Esauian reign, which we're seeing, are coming to a close. How does it fall? How does the Klipa of Rome fall? Clay and iron do not mix. The refugees go in there, and all of them coming here. Jihad's coming to America, I'm telling you. It's coming. Clay and iron don't mix. It's going to topple the whole backside Klipa. What is the backside Klipa? The manipulation of finance. Because he who holds the gold makes the rule. It's called the golden rule. How do you have slavery? Finance. How do you go take over a country? You devalue their currency. You starve them out for about a week, and then you just walk in there. You don't have to shoot anybody. We've been doing it for decades. Decades. We have all been fooled. It's all a manipulation. It's all real. It feels real. People really die. But it's all for the manipulation of currency. Their currency is done. President Trump got in. What's the first thing he did? He went to Saudi. They arrested the head guy and 200 of his henchmen. Why? Because they shot up a bunch of people up there in Las Vegas at a country music concert. That was the Sauds that did it. Now, Saudi Arabia flew into the buildings at 9/11, but we went after Saddam Hussein. Don't look over here. Go over here. Okay? Now, I think by now you know 9/11 was an inside job. If you don't, wake up. Now, comes all full circle. Then where does he go? He went straight to Rome. Said, we got you. Then where does he go? He goes straight to the crown, to the queen. We got you. Then he goes to Germany, to Merkel. We got you. Then where does he go? To Putin. And he gives him the soccer ball. He's playing ball. And he's going to take down Ukraine, where they wash their money, where they create all the bioweapons to kill the people like COVID. Right? Then what does he do? Goes to China. He gets to walk in the Forbidden City. Nobody's ever done that. President's ever done that. Then he goes to North Korea. And we're going to have a little missile crisis coming up, but don't worry. Goes to North Korea. Walks across the DMZ. Then he writes all these Executive War Powers Act when we get attacked. And he said this is in Pearl Harbor. They tried it with COVID. They were going to lock you down forever. They tried it with Ukraine. Didn't work. What's the last ditch effort? Israel. Now let me go on. Israel, over the last 6 months, had been on the verge of civil war. Why? Because the deep state needs a war, needs a cover. Bring on Israel. The new optic of 1948 is what you're witnessing. If you Google, if you want to write this down, OE027515, you will find a company comes up. This company, this LLC, is known as the State of Israel. Its address is 2 Palace Green, London, England. It is a registered corporation that was filed February 23rd, 2023. The state is an owned London corporation in the UK. Jews don't own it. The current officers are not listed. However, the beneficent owners are. They are the Knesset, the government of Israel. And its location is in Ben Gurion, Israel. This government body was notified that this benefit was from the assigned agreement on this date in April 14th, 1948. You can look all this up. In April the 14th, 1948, it was agreed upon that this was going to happen on February 23rd, 2023, that it was going to be run by the government. So what have they been doing for the last 70 years? Installing their people. And the people were not going along with what they were doing, and they've been rioting for 7 months in Israel. Now, bring on the war. The security breach that they had is the same company they were changing over to that we just changed over to. Feel safe now? This signed agreement is of Israel's dissolution, I'm calling it. The sovereign body, the deep state government of Israel, is to be brought into submission by the Bank of London, the IMF, and the governing body of the totalitarian globalist system that is now collapsing before your very eyes. And Israel will be a part of the very collapse of this system, as will the United States of America and the entire world, except for those who got off of this system years ago. That's why Russia is no longer the USSR. Russia beat everyone to the punch. NATO, only the strong arm of the Kabbalah in Europe. That's why Russia says, hey, don't you get NATO close over here. It'll be on. Now, prior to this, the agreement was set up with Israel in the Balfour Declaration that if you collapsed NATO and the entire EU economy, Israel had assurances that it would not be affected. So now, they're forcing them into the world collapse of the Cabal-run deep state financial Illuminati system, and this model removes the sovereignty of Israeli government, much like what is happening in the U.S. They caught them all. The Palestinian people voted Hamas as their governing body. You think that election was rigged? Sound familiar? How do you think we have all these Muslims, all the Muslim Brotherhood and everything in our Congress and Senate and was in the White House for 8 years? Installation? Manipulation of the system? Trying to... You got to understand, the UK owns Canada, Israel. Remember the Falkland Wars back growing up, if some of you are old enough? Australia, New Zealand. And they run the Middle East. But not anymore. Not anymore. This is what Kissinger and the whole petrodollar was designed to do. Was to be able to manipulate the currencies of the world markets in America with the Saudi Arabian price of oil. All you got to do is have a little tiff in the Middle East. You know, we go fight Iraq and Trump said, hey, take all their oil. Then we wouldn't. Well, no, we didn't do that. We had $5 gasoline over here during Bush. It's a lie. The whole thing is a lie. Now, this is what is going on. Due to the Act of 1871, Israel is under a total collapse of the monetary system, like the rest of us are. This being so, here's the good news, here's the shiny part. The PLO will no longer have slush money. Right? This is the war in the Kohator called the War of Mashiach ben Ephraim and Armilus that I've been talking about. If you take the words Abbas, Arafat, and Mashal is the one who invented Hamas, okay? So you got the PLO leader, you got the Egyptian leader, you got the Hamas leader. If you take their names, it's an amalgamation. It spells Armilus. This is the destruction of Armilus. We haven't gotten to Amalek. Not yet. But Amalek's the one financing it. You have to understand. They're financing both sides. Look at our country. We're going to give money to Iran. We're going to give money to the Palestinians, PLO, and we're going to give money to Israel. And we're going to give money to Ukraine. We're supporting both sides. We sell stuff to sell food and whatever to Russia.
And how many trillions of dollars are we in debt?
Over 33. But it's all coming to a head, people. Here we go. They know their time is short. This is their last ditch effort. the desire is and always has been to control the Jews. Do you think those people in those spots do not know what we know? How much more so? What do I teach? Are we dealing with fools? Now they are making their last dying breath ditch effort, but it will not work. Whatever occurs in the West, in USA, in D.C., London, the Vatican, will also happen in Israel. The hold, the grip is over. It is now absorbed into the collapse. Now, 7 months later, from when this was signed on February 23rd, 2023, you see the launch of Hamas in Gaza, which puts all the Arab nations on alert because they need war. They need it. Because if they don't have it, it's all exposed. What did they want Israel to do? Rush in there with 300,000 people. It's 25 miles long and 5 miles wide. Where are they going to run? They can't go to the sea. Egypt doesn't want them. Isn't it odd that no Arab countries wants the Palestinians? Not one. And they can't come to Israel. They ain't going nowhere. You don't need to go in there. Just boom, boom, boom. Wait them out. It's hunting. Hunting. Leave them without no power, food, or water for a month. See what happens. They're going to come out of there. The big problem, the big scare is to the north. Hezbollah and Syria, because Iran can feed them anything they want. They don't have to come through Israel like they do to get it to Gaza or go around through Egypt. They can feed them directly right from the main vein. So Israel is playing this one so good, so coy. They're just sitting there like hunting a deer. I could go kill a deer tonight anywhere I wanted to, but I wouldn't shoot the right one. You got to hunt that one. They want Israel to make a grave mistake so they can spin it into a humanitarian issue. Mm-hmm. So they can make the optics look right, so they can do a massive attack on Israel. This is their last opportunity, and they know it. The well has run dry. There is no more money. We own the checkbook now. Now they want to call for a ceasefire because they know if Israel removes Hamas, the attacks from within can no longer happen. Infiltration from within. What are you seeing in Europe right now? You ain't seen it on the regular news, but you can find it. It's going off over there in Vienna and Australia and all the European countries. They are having hell with all those Arabs. And guess what? It's coming to a town near you. See, here's the play. We're busting them up there. Yeah, get them out of Texas. Yeah, get them out of the red states. Send them up to the blue states. They love that because they're colonizing their army to a place where nobody has weapons. And we think it's great. Get them out of here. Oh, no.
Well, it's not that bad.
Yeah. Then they want to come get your guns. No, you can't have my guns. Where's the Second Amendment? Oh, okay, our bad. So then they can arm them. Now, when they come shoot you, they can say, we tried to get your AR-15s and you said no, so everybody can have one. Do you see the play? They're playing you. It will ultimately draw close down the road to what we know as Gog and Magog, Russia and China and Syria. We'll get in with Iran ultimately, but that will be down the road. So, 2 Palace Green, London, England, you will also find the location of the Israeli embassy. And that's what I have for that. Let's learn what Hamas is. Go to Genesis. I'll tell you what. Go to Isaiah 60 and verse 18. That was a little different Torah class start, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
A little history lesson.
A little history lesson of what's really going on. Isaiah 60:18.
60.
Yeah, Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 18. No longer will violence be heard in your land, nor plunder, calamity in your borders. That word violence is Hamas. Now, well, how does this apply to the non-Jew, the righteous non-Jew in the world? Well, let's just find out. Turn to Genesis, page 13, chapter 6. Our good old buddy Noah. Parsha Noach. 6:9. Y'all with me?
Yep.
These are the offsprings of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with Elohim. Noah had begotten 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth had become corrupt before Elohim, and the earth had become filled with robbery. That word corrupt and robbery, either one is Hamas. So we see Hamas at the end in chapter 60, and we see Hamas here in Noah. So what is Hamas? What has been going on in the news for a long time? Child trafficking. Child sacrifice. And all of the sexual stuff. Look at the world. Look at the alphabet people. Look at all the sexual things going on. What was the het of Adam? 3 C's. The knowing, the tree of knowledge, union. Right? What happened in the world of Nicodemus? The shattering of the vessels. Those are the 7 sphirot. Those are the 7 laws. It's fixing to come full circle. This whole thing that you are witnessing is what the Kabbalah in 4D that we teach. This is what it looks like here. And Ravali says in 6:9, these are the offsprings of Noah. Noah was a righteous man. Behold, there is the joining and connection of the previous parsha, of this parsha with the previous one. As at the end of the previous parsha, we already heard that the decree, the gezerah, had gone forth from Hashem, may he be blessed, to destroy all flesh. And here, in this parsha, the decree itself was written and inscribed that it would be done and carried out. And the tzaddik Noah would be preserved to sustain the world, as the matter says in Proverbs 10:25, page 1583. Page 1583. When the storm passes, a wicked one is no more, but a righteous one is the foundation of the world. The storm is coming. And although his sustaining of the world was dependent on his offspring of this tzaddik, therefore the parsha started with the matter as said. These are the offspring of Noah. So the sustaining of the world, and today, is it your children? Yes, but it's also the people you teach the Torah to. Those are still called your offspring, right? That's what sustains the world, righteousness. They had the 7 laws, guys. That's it. Because these nullify and disqualify the ancestors that preceded them. Once you become a righteous person, it disqualifies all that preceded you. the ones who would be blotted out, destroyed, and the offspring of the tzaddik, Noah, would sustain it, the world. And the world returned to being rebuilt through them. And behold, it is already known that before this destruction, the ruin of those generations, the Shekhinah, who is the secret of the Malchut, the Shekhinah, she is the ark. Noah is the tzaddik that went into the ark, male and female. There's our Hug, Hasidim and Guvaro. Elohim, Guvaro. The tzaddik, Yesod, Hug, Hasidim and Guvaro. Some of these things on these charts I've been trying to teach you. This is how you see it. She is the Shekhinah, who is the secret of the Malchut, was spreading out and expanding out in all the world to oversee the lower levels. But after they were ruined, corrupted, they no longer were fit and worthy of the oversight. And she was contracted. There's your tzimtzum. And she was minimized and limited upon one tzaddik, Noah, who was beloved in his generation. The Zohar says, you should study Torah and do Torah as if you're the only one that's going to do it and the world depends upon you. He was beloved in his generation, and he was in the aspect of Yesod that was unified with the Malchut, as I just explained. They're in union. It's like Moses and the Shekhinah were in union. And all the rest were handed over and delivered into the hand of the harsh dinning. Jeremiah 1 verse 10, page 1073. See, I've appointed you this day over the nations and over the kingdoms, to uproot and to smash and to destroy and overthrow. And this is what was written. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generation, because a tzaddik, a righteous man, is perfect. That is to say, a complete, perfect tzaddik who has no blemish of transgression. What is the term? How do you know if you are righteous? For the female term is righteousness, but for the male term is righteous. What does a righteous man do? If he is Yesod, what does he do? He guards Yesod. Every one of the 7 laws is contained in guarding Yesod. And I'll show you how in a minute. Now, he had no blemish or transgression, both generally and in principle, and therefore he was meritorious, worthy to join with the Malchut that ascended and rose. He was meritorious to build the ark, go into the Songs 4:7, page 1691. We're getting to the Hamas, don't worry. We got to get there. You got to know what Noah is to understand what Hamas is. You got to know what the 7 laws are to understand what Hamas is. This is something you've never heard. I mean, I've taught it 10 years ago, but it's different now. 1691. Because the times are different. We know more, too. what did I say? 4:7. This is talking about the tzaddik, where you will be completely fair, my beloved, and no blemish will be in you. That's her talking. And this is what is written. Noah walked with Elohim. But according to this, it was necessary to say Elohim walked with Noah. Because if Noah walked with Elohim, does Elohim not walk with Noah? Who else walked with God?
Enoch.
Adam.
Enoch. Who is Enoch?
Metatron.
Oh, back to Metatron. Back to the sheep. I'm going to make a prediction. This ain't a prophecy. This is an opinion of a prediction. If you look at that information I told you earlier, all those places at 2 Palace, London, Green, London, they're shut down for 60 days. What happens in 60 days? They're about a little feast called Hanukkah. And you've been hearing a whole lot about military tribunals and all that kind of stuff going on, right? For treason. What did they do at Purim?
Nuremberg trials. Or
Nuremberg trials.
Nuremberg trials.
The same thing happened in Purim at Esther. What was meant for the righteous turned on the wicked. Their days are numbered. If they're going to start it on the feast, it's going to follow the feast, because that's how God works. I'm just saying, if it happens like that, you heard it first right here. So, that is to say, 1, that this kavod, this glory and honor of the Shekinah, is why he was said to have walked with God. And 2, because he was the first, he proceeded literally with his good deeds, and therefore the Shekinah joined with him, as it was an awakening and a stimulation from below, a maim, that's the feminine waters, and an awakening from above. In the secret of Job 41, verse 3, page 1675. Page 1675. Now this is in Job 40. We did Job 40 in this class, in our Zechariah series, talking about Leviathan. And if you don't know who Leviathan is, you need to go back and watch those classes. Verse 3, right? Was it? Oh, I'm sorry. I think it's verse. I might have miswrote it, but I think it's. I think I got it. I think I got it wrong. I think it may be 12. See every haughty one and humble him, crush the wicked in their places. I think it's verse 12. I'm sorry. Like he had with Noah, and from his offspring he would be rewarded with all the earth. Noah's promise from God was he would be rewarded with all the earth. Now, what is the earth? The Shekinah. But did his offspring not spread out across the entire earth? That's what we're seeing now. And this too is the reason that the scriptures return to mention them and support as written. Verse 10, Noah had begotten 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Well, we already know that. If you look at Genesis 5:32, when Noah was 500 years old, Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Why is it telling us again? The repetitive language. Let us know this, what was going on with this reward, and that they would cover the whole earth. And surely they have already been mentioned in the previous parsha where I just told you, except to teach who the Shekhinah causes Noah to beget 3 sons, that from them he would be rewarded with all the earth, and through them the world would return. The world would return with all 3 in its Kavim lines, right, left, center. They were going to establish the 3 lines of the Sphira, because it was everything at the Malchut of Atzilut from there on down was fixed to be wiped out, and they were going to establish right, left, center again, and that's going to wind up being the whole earth. This is where the 7 laws come from. So if you're part of the 7 laws, you are helping Noah and Elohim fix the entire earth. And Shem have you ever heard the word Hashem? The name? Shem is the name. That's why Shem gets that's the Jews, that's the Torah, that's the whole thing. Because it's the name. And this is where all this Berudim comes in, and they're fixing, what are they fixing? The shattering of the vessels. Where it spilled out, I just said a key word, listen to me. It spilled out. Something is spilling. It's key in the worlds previous, with the death of the 7 kings in Genesis 36. And the creation of the 7 laws. It spilled out. In the manner that is saying, that was joined with the Shekhinah at cause of his goodness, cause this goodness. And therefore it is said at the beginning, Noah walked with Elohim. And the support is brought for it in verse 10. Noah had begotten 3 sons. And this is correct. And the correct reason for the repeating and the doubling twice. And the support of the matters. And behold, it came to mention in support for the reason that Hashem, may he be blessed, had decreed the complete destruction of all flesh. Now we know, at Gog and Magog, there's going to be ultimately a complete destruction. 2/3 of the entire world is going to be wiped out. Only a 1/3, only the head is going to remain. That's the aspect of Atzilut. It's the same thing as Noah. The end is looped in the beginning. The decree of the destruction happened at Noah and the Malchut of Atzilut. It happened again in the Malchut of Berea. It happened again in the Malchut of Yetzirah. And it's happening now at the Malchut of Asiya. The decree has been written. It's been gone forth. It's been spoken. You understand, the flood has not stopped. Because the flood in Hebrew is Mabul. Mabul is the name of the angel of death, the one that carries out the din. And it's going to complete its task through all of the worlds. And only the 7 laws are going to get those who are of the nations out of it. Into the ark, so to speak. Now listen. What you are seeing today is this decree in Asiya. Not in Atzilut. Not in the Malchut of Atzilut. And Israel is cleaning the land of Hamas. And Israel is going to now have their land back for the first time ever in the last 2,500 years. What we saw previously, they didn't have it. The Hitzonim owned it. The other side still had it contractually. That's why Zah and Nuk are going to get to make a union, because the Jews are really going to have it. This is why they're stuck on the term Noahide. Because as long as Noahide, as long as the other side has it, you use another side term. But as soon as the Jews get their land, you see, the Jews and the land of Israel are inseparable. They're the same thing. And when they get ownership of it, the ger is also attached to the land because Toshav is the location. If the Jews don't have it, there is no ger Toshav today. Yeah, because you don't have it either. Change is coming. Change is coming. Now, the end of all flesh. It was, and why did he decree the end of all flesh has come before me? It was because the fear of heaven had ceased completely. Happened today. There are more satanic worshiping, child trafficking, pedophilia, you name it, today than a long time in history. Long time. But there's nothing new under the sun. And they broke out and increased with all kinds of transgressions as if there was no God, judging them on the earth. They were doing it because like there's no God judging them on the earth. Oh, we're going to get away with this. And they're getting away with it. Except there's one problem. There's this thing of spilling out, shattering the vessels. Verse 11. Now the earth had become Hamas before Elohim, and the earth had become filled with Hamas, Elohim, and Elohim. And here's what it says. This is the Peshat. But the secret of the matter is this, that the building of the Malchut was ruined, as she is the secret of the supernal earth. So it's not just Israel, it's the earth. Where have they sent Hamas? All over the earth. All over. And that which is written before Elohim is in the secret of Bina, Ima Ila'ah, supernal Bina, Elohim, who always oversees her building of the Malchut, and she cannot suffer or bear its ruin and destruction. And certainly before the cycles and seasons of the lower worlds. Do you realize there were no cycles and there were no seasons before this happened? And the verse says, and the earth had become full with Hamas. That is to say, that the Malchut had become filled with the impurities of the Hitzonim that are called Hamas. Because it was Hamas that did this to her. You wonder why when you watch that you see them all raped? And I mean raped many times. The men too. Well, who would think of that? Right? And the way they kill the babies and stuff, who would think of that? But why do they rape them, even the babies when they're dead? Here's the secret. Hamas. Because she is filled with the lights of Kedusha, holiness, that were protecting and keeping her. And this was the intention of the emanator, the Ein Sof, from the day she was established. You can go read Proverbs chapter 8 and get all you want about that. That's about the Shekhinah. And 9. Proverbs 9 is about the Shekhinah. It says, get wisdom. It's her. Wisdom shall come forth from her mouth. Proverbs 8:1. Proverbs 9:1. The wisdom, fear is the beginning of wisdom. And then it says she. She was established that her house would receive the orot, the lights of Kedusha, that would be drawn down to her from above and fill her, all of her lack, all of her need, and all of her want. This is the creation story again in Noah. The union. And when she was filled with the powers of the Tameh, the impurity, before the cycles and seasons of the lower worlds, behold, it was opposite of the intention of the emanator, because her building was destroyed, completely ruined. Didn't that happen at the first and second temple also? You think this story is iterating on itself time after time after time? Just when they tried to take Israel away and give it to the government that they put in place in February this year, that was decreed in 1948, April the 14th? You don't think God's running this show? Whew. Because the emanator did not, this was opposite of his intentions, because her building was destroyed completely and ruined, and it was great Hamas, violence, that had done this to her. And on this secret it is written in verse 11, and the earth had become filled with Hamas. And indeed, the great transgression that caused the spoiling, the corruption, and the ruin, and the robbery of the earth, and the receiving, and the ruining of the building of the Malchut. What caused it? The expelling of seed in vain. The spilling of seed. There's the sixth law in the Sheva Mitzvahs called limb of a living animal, Abram and Ahai. I'm not going to go through it, but this is the upper meaning of the Peshat. The Peshat is, don't rip a limb off a live animal and eat it. The limb is Yesod. Go from there. All the pornography, all the pedophilia, all the adultery, all that stuff, it's all tied in. It's also robbery because you're stealing. It's theft. It's also murder. Look at all the abortion. It's all that. And when you spill the seed, you kill that spirit. You see what I'm saying? And it's also idolatry. It's also blasphemy. It's every single 7 laws. The whole thing. And this is what creates Hamas. Now, Hamas can have many forms. We see its physical form. But who's funding it? They are Hamas too. They are doing the same thing, but in the dark rooms. Hear me out. The spilling of the seed in vain, because this is what attracts and feeds the Sitra Aqua. In the midst of the earth. You want to know why we have satanic Super Bowl halftime shows? This is why. That comes to take all of those drops that were cast to protect them and create spirits and demons, shadim, from them. Like what was created from the drops that were expelled in vain from Adam Harishon. During his 130 years, he was separated from his wife. So, where did those droplets end up? Now, 5 Gurot times 26 Yud Hey Vav Hey is 130. Now, I've said this 1,000 times in this class that Jacob lived 130. Jacob actually lived 147, but in context, Jacob says, I think he tells Pharaoh, my life has been 130 years of awfulness. But he had 17 years of goodness. 17 is Gematria Tov. Now you got to understand, Joseph's life and Jacob's life, Israel's life is going to parallel. Have they ever had a good life? No. Do we know that they get 40 good years apiece? That's 17, 40 good. The Mem, the Malchut. That's what I'm saying. On the other side of this, it's going to be really, really good. Just like Jacob's years were really, really good at the end. It has to follow the pattern. It can't deviate. You see what I'm saying? So Adam was separated from Hava, and the light was emitting out. Where did that light go? The mixed multitude. That's the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav is the 130 years of Adam's spilled seed. That's why Moses said, you got to take them out, God. God said, don't bring them out. He says, there's Adam's kids. Now, the Erev Rav is what is running the show. And they are the spilled seed from Adam. And it is cascaded down of the seed that spilled between Adam and Noah, created Hamas. They're the right and left hand of the Sitra Achra. That's what we're seeing. That's what's being taken down. Why do you think our government is backing Palestine and Hamas? You don't try to separate Palestine and Hamas now. They're the same thing. Kid yourself, same thing. All right? They have always been that since the days of Noah. And this was the reason for the destruction of the generation of the flood, which the verse in the previous parsha calls the evil of Adam, man. So, did Adam, we got a huge kasha here. Did Adam really commit this evil? Spill this seed? Okay. Now we have to ask ourselves, who is Adam? Oh, Adam is Shem Ma. Well, Shem Ma is Yud He Vav He. Did God do this? Did the vessels not shatter in the world of Nekodim when the light hit them? Of the light of Shem Ma? Yes. It's built there. That created the Tohu. It's following the fracture line all the way through. You see what's going on now? That's why the 7 laws are very important in the grand scheme of things, because it was the covenant. It's a bris, because the flood was a circumcision of the evil. That's why it's a bris. That's why when you go before a base din and you keep the 7 laws, you have a covenant with the Holy One of Israel. Which is, and they say because Adam did this, he was the example for them, literally. They're blaming Adam. Well, you did it. Who are they blaming? God. What is anti-Semitism? Blaming God. Oh, well, you did it. Okay. And we find that the transgression of the expelling and the spilling of seed in vain was what caused the building of the Malchut to be ruined, destroyed, because it was filled with the spirits and the shading demon and the damaging spirits. Because they are all corrupt, the people, as known. Remember, we read it. Why did they destroy the first and second temple? Baseless hatred. What is baseless hatred? This. How do you feed it? Inappropriate, corrupt sexual acts. What's going on in this country? They're trying to force it down your children in the schoolhouse. You don't think the end is looped in the beginning and we're right back at Noah? And you don't think that destruction decree still exists and is resonating through time? Because it has to hit a sea of a sea. Right? And this is what it looks like, people. Therefore, the corrupt Hamas people ruined her building. How much time we got?
5 over.
And the Torah is amazing, and the sages are amazing. And I promise, we're going to get to the rest of this sheet next week.